Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vanderheyden's new employee orientation training. You are coming to you via an online format, which is something new for us. And hopefully you will find this a more convenient way to do some of your new employee orientation. My name is Jerry Hinman. I'm the Director of Learning and Development, and the other lovely person on your screen is Robin Doptis. She is our Senior Training Specialist. Say hello to everyone, Robin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome aboard.
Absolutely. So we're here to kind of kick things off, and we're going to cover one of the trainings with you via this format. And then everything else you will see, you're going to kind of go through step by step, but we just wanted to take an opportunity to say hello because we're going to miss seeing you in person, but we'll see you in some of our other trainings. All right. So with that, I will turn you over to Robin, who is going to just give you a quick little overview about Vanderheyden because we think it's important that you understand that Vanderheyden just doesn't do one thing. We do a whole bunch of things, and you are our ambassadors for our agency. And so it's really good to kind of understand that there are a lot of different job opportunities for you within our agency, but also for you to go out there and tell others that might be interested in helping other people. So with that, I give you Robin.
Okay, so one of the things that makes Vanderheyden unique compared to some of the other human service organizations in the area is that we serve a vast population. We serve adults with developmental disabilities under the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. We serve children and their families under the Office of Children and Family Services. We have a school, which, we have students who live here and go to school. We also have students who live at home and go to school, and it's a specialized school. We also have programs under the Department of Health, and because we provide food to the individuals, we have USDA overseeing some of our programs as well. So our agency is kind of split up into three kind of big categories. And the first category is community services. And so obviously these are services that are within the community. They're integrated within the neighborhoods in the surrounding areas. So the first type of community service programs that we have are called OPWDD IRAs, otherwise known as Individualized Residential Alternatives. And these are like group homes for adults with developmental disabilities. And so you see listed here all the different locations that we have. And throughout those different locations, you're going to find a variety of different needs and ways that you can support the individuals, ranging from needing a lot of support to just needing a little bit of support. We also have OPWDD support services. So apart from the group homes, we have our family service work, which is community habilitation, where our team members go out and they work one-on-one with individuals in the community and do some skill building. We also have 2 day habilitation sites, one with and one without walls. So the one with walls is like a structured program. They go to a site, they learn skills, they do activities. The one without walls, where they're not going to a site every single day. They're out in the community. They're utilizing resources to learn different skills and really getting out and learning different things based on whatever is available. Then we have our family supports. So under our family supports, we have 2 group homes, our Bessie group home and our Reuben group home, and these are for children. Bessie is going to have male and females. Reuben's just going to have boys. And Bessie has a very specific population where the individuals are typically dual diagnosed, meaning they have multiple diagnoses. A lot of them might be on the developmental disability side, and they have some mental health concerns as well. We also have a supportive independent living program for those individuals who are starting to develop some more skills and independence. They get the opportunity to try out their very first apartment, and we're there to support them along the way. We also have our children's health home care managers, who are basically, case workers for a child. And the goal is to really coordinate all services so that they can lead a healthy life, making sure that their doctor's on board, their therapist is on board, their school, their community, whatever resources might be available to them. We also have family youth peer advocates, who are individuals who either have gone through these experiences or are family members of somebody who has gone through these experiences to provide some sort of advocacy, some sort of peer group for people going through, because it can be kind of scary. So to have somebody who's gone through those experiences and be able to share them and bounce ideas off of can be very helpful. And then lastly, we have our CFTSS program. And this is working with children in the community, one-on-one skill building, goal oriented treatment. So our second sector is our residential services, and these are going to be the cottages that you might see on our main campus, especially if you've come to do your paperwork. You probably saw the little cottages up surrounding our business office there. And so these cottages are going to have children ranging from the age of 12 to 21, and they're also going to range in their needs. Some are going to be considered hard to place, which means that they haven't been super successful in other programs and they need additional supports, they need additional help. We have some cottages that are strictly girls, some that are strictly boys, and cottage 7 is co-ed. And then our last sector is our school. And as I mentioned, the students that live residentially come down and they go to school there, but we also have students who live within the community and they're bused in through their home school district. And so they just need a little extra support, a little specialized care to help them succeed in the school environment. And that's Vanderheyden in a nutshell. And it's a very quick overview. And if you ever want more information on the programs, do reach out, because you know, one thing that Jerry and I always talk about is if you feel like it's not a good fit for you, don't just leave. There might be another program that might be a better fit for your skill set. So there's lots of opportunities for you to find kind of your niche in our community.
Nice job, Robin. All right, so one of the first trainings that you're actually going to get is incident reporting. And I think it's important for you to understand that all of the trainings that you will be completing in this online new employee orientation, we call them compliance trainings, which means that it's extremely important that you kind of go through them and you understand, and that if there's anything that you don't understand, is that you reach out to either Robin or I or your supervisor, who will get in contact with us so we can answer any questions that we normally would have answered in an in-person new employee orientation. So one of the first topics we're going to cover is incident reporting. It's actually quite a vital role or function that you will have in your job. Depending on the nature of your job, some folks might write more reports than others, but it is important that everyone understands not only when to write a report, but what to write in that report. So what is the purpose of an incident report? It's going to communicate applicable information. We'll talk more about what is applicable information as we go along. Meet regulatory responsibilities. Well, those oversight agencies that Robin listed, OPWDD, OCFS, SED, they all have different regulatory needs that we need to meet. Within all of them, though, is our need to write up a report that reflects certain things that happen in our respective environments. We also write reports to protect the individual's health and well-being. We want to document the types of things that may have happened to them, right? So we can have the appropriate follow-up. Then lastly, document unusual incidents and maintain our accurate records of high-risk interventions. And you're going to learn more about what it means to have a high-risk intervention, right? We're working in an environment where sometimes you as a staff member might need to step in to help the individual be safe or keep them safe from themselves or other people. We call those high-risk interventions. So more on that and other types of trainings that you will receive if it is necessary for your particular job. All right, so we talk about narrative quality, right? It's what do we want to put in that narrative of that report that we're writing, right? So sometimes people, if they're not sure, they write a whole bunch of stuff. We really want you to get into the right frame of mind when writing a report and just write what is necessary. And that means you don't have to spend all day writing something. We just want to make sure that what you write is relevant to what has taken place. We want to be objective, right? Not subjective. Objective means that we're focusing on things that are observable, things that are facts. Subjective means we're bringing our own thoughts, feelings, and opinions into it. We might be emotionally charged, which might sway the way in which we write a report. We might have a bias based on a whole bunch of other things, our own past perceptions, past encounters. We want to leave all of that outside of a written report. Well organized and specific. We want to be writing things in chronological order. It's important that somebody else that is completely unrelated to that event can walk through, read the report, and kind of almost put together exactly what happened in the right time sequence and in the right order, that if they had to, they could pull in other people, recreate the event, and have as close to as possible of the way it actually occurred. It's very important because it can be very confusing to someone that wasn't there. So we ask people to focus on the way in which things transpired. Factual, no inferences or opinions or conclusions. And we're going to do a little exercise that will hit upon that and explain that a little bit more in a second. Grammatically correct, right? In this day and age, right, we don't all have to be English majors to write a decent report. We have the wonderful use of technology that will do spell checks. It'll kind of talk to you about grammar, and all of our reports now are written in an electronic system called the Words, and you will learn more about that when that time comes. But it has those built-in features to do spell check, grammar checks, things of that nature. We want to avoid things that are abbreviations or jargon. Jargon is another word to say we want to stay away from things that might only be used by a specific field, like perhaps a medical field or a clinical field. We want to write things in layman's terms, okay? And then I think I said before, we want to make sure we're using things like spell check. Doesn't make sense to spell something wrong if we have that technology at our fingertips to make sure that we're getting it right the first time. All right, so I talked that we were going to talk a little bit more about what it means to infer something, right? Inference means we're inferring some things based on things that we normally associate, right? We draw conclusions based on characteristics that in the past may have led us to a certain conclusion and may have been right. But when we're writing reports, we want to be careful not to infer anything and only stick with things that we can absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, be certain of. So if I were to ask you what is factual in this picture, right? Oh, I think I heard somebody out there say, oh, the girl in the front, she's sleeping. And I would say, do you know that for certain that that young woman is sleeping in the front? Could be. I might want to infer that because she has all of those common characteristics of someone sleeping. Her head's down, her eyes are closed. But in all honesty, that's all she may be. Her head might be down and her eyes may be closed, but those ears might be listening to everything that's being said, right? So we wouldn't write in a report that she was sleeping. We might also think that, that they're in a math class because on the back blackboard, we see some stuff that looks like math. Well, that room might be a shared room and people might move in and out of it. For all we know, that could be a history class. So again, we wouldn't state that. Now, I might get into saying that there are 5 people in the picture frame and it looks like one other person off the picture frame, right? That would be a factual statement. I might say that the one person has a yellow shirt on, right? That's pretty factual. We can go ahead and write that in there. So that's what we mean when we say we don't want to infer things. We want to stick with what's fact. So it's just a good reminder when you're writing up a report to just stick to those facts. So when do we write an incident report? We're talking about writing one up, but when do we write it? Well, there are certain things, and we're going to break these down into categories. We're going to start with the category that is the most severe, critical incidents, right? Allegations of abuse. Now, when you get into later in this training, you're going to take a bunch of different trainings, and there's going to be training that specifically speaks to what is abuse and what do we do when we see abuse, right? But when we learn those things and we learn how to identify them, that is also going to be when we're going to write up a report on that. So I'll give you an example, a little sneak preview. If you were to see somebody being hurt, right? If somebody was to be hit, that would be physical abuse, and we would write that up. Whether that abuse come from, God forbid, a staff member or a peer, that's still an instance of abuse, and we would write that up because that would then be followed up by a whole bunch of other people. And it's important that we write those up when those things happen. Fire setting, right? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. If you notice somebody starting a fire, right? An intentional fire, but you would also write it up if it was unintentional. somebody was cooking in the kitchen and something caught on fire. We're going to go ahead and write that up, right? It's a serious critical event. Somebody was to die, critical incident, going to write that up. Weapon possession, going to write it up. If somebody were to leave without consent, that means to leave outside the boundaries of Vanderheyden in any approved, unapproved way, right? And each program has a different determination of what would be considered leave without consent. Some of the individuals in our program have the ability to leave the home and walk into a town, right? Whereas others may not have that level of freedom. So the nature of what leave without consent changes from program to program, and you'll learn those specifics once you're in that program. A suicide attempt, gesture, or ideation means that if somebody actually tried to commit suicide and hurt themselves, we're going to write that up. It's deemed critical. The same thing if somebody was to make a gesture, right? If they were to kind of give you an indication that they were going to do that, or if they were to say something that would lead you to believe that they might hurt themselves, that's ideation. They have an idea of doing such a thing. All of those would be critical. You would write all of them up. And in addition to that, you would also notify, depending on your position, your supervisor and clinical on call and the clinician to the individual. There's a whole bunch of things that would take place in an event like that. But for the purposes of this particular training, you're going to make sure that you write that up. And we want to be very specific and very clear about the way those events had transpired. All right, so some more areas in which we would write up an incident report. Now we get into serious incidents, okay? They're still high up there, but they fall slightly below critical. So if there was a grievance, meaning some person was very upset, and that could mean you as well, right? You felt something happened and you wanted to grieve that, you could go ahead and write up an incident report. If it was an accident, illness, injury, anything that required more than first aid, right? You don't have to write it up if you hand somebody a Band-Aid, but anything that requires more than your first aid training, and we'll get to more of that at some point, you're gonna most likely take CPR first aid. So anything more than that training, you're gonna go ahead and write up an incident report. If there's a medication error, there's all different classifications of med errors. So anytime any one of those classes is hit, then you're going to go ahead and write up an incident report. Self-injury. So sometimes we have people that might do self-harm. And again, we talked about that. There's a difference between self-harm and somebody trying to kill themselves, right? So if somebody were to be scratching themselves really hard, that would be considered self-injury, would rise to the level of serious incident, which is slightly different than critical if somebody were grabbing something that could produce fatal bodily harm to one another, right? That's where it slips over to critical. Substance abuse or possession. So none of our programs allow people to have illegal substances, to sell, to use, to possess any of those. Those would all rise to the level of a serious incident. You're going to go ahead and write that up. Sexual behaviors, right? Anything that someone does that falls outside of what is allowable within your program. And again, we're very clear not to just, one size fits all, because every program has differences about what is acceptable behavior. All right. And you'll learn more about that when you get to your programs. Group disturbances of 3 or more youth, right? So 2 people would be kind of a fight. A group disturbance would be considered anybody. If it was a third person involved, then it's something a little bit larger than that, and that's going to go down as a serious incident. We have some intermediate incidences, property damage, right? Somebody breaks something or somebody steals something. Okay, we're going to go ahead and write that up. Doesn't rise to the same level. And you're going to see all of this when you learn your award system. There's going to be check boxes for you to kind of click which one of these categories everything falls under. Most of it's laid out very cleanly for you to help kind of build some of what needs to go in there. And then there'll be room for you to kind of actually write up things as you saw them and the way they transpired. All right, so we want to make sure that we're paying attention to details. Okay, so we're going to take a look at what that means. We're going to watch a brief little video, and I'm going to set it up while Robin is queuing it up. We're going to see. We think that we're very observant and that we're paying attention, but we're going to do this fun little test. And I'm going to see how well you observe. So here are some instructions you see in front of you. It says count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. All right, so that's your mission. When in the end, we're going to ask you how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. Are you ready? Ready, Robin? Let's do it. I see 3 people with a white shirt, and I'm up to 6. All right. So how many passes did you count? 17? I heard somebody say 21. I guess the all important question is how many gorillas did you see? There were 15 passes, but only 1 gorilla. Did you see the gorilla? It's okay. We won't tell anyone if you didn't. Almost every time we show this, at least half never see that gorilla, and there he is. Because sometimes we're so focused on our task at hand that we sometimes miss the things that are right in front of us, right? So it's just a good reminder and a good exercise that sometimes the details, right, are the little things, and it's important that we focus on them, right, and not get distracted by everything else that's going on around us. All right, some miscellaneous reporting. From time to time, there might be a need that you will do what we call a restraint. And I understand that some of you may be brand new at this, so I'll just do a really quick explanation when we say restraints. And if you are new, you are going to go through physical restraint training with Robin and I. You'll either do it under TCI, which is part of OCFS, right? It's called Therapeutic Crisis Intervention, or SCIP, which is called Strategies for Crisis Intervention and Prevention. SCIP is a physical intervention and a curriculum under the OPWDD, Office of People Developmental Disabilities, while TCI is under Office of Children and Family Services, right? But both of those curriculums include a portion that, excuse me, teaches us the best and safest way to intervene when somebody's in a danger to themselves or others, right? But when those events happen, those are a high-risk intervention. So there's some really important things that we need to pay attention to before we do any of that, right? So we're going to want to know the time the restraint started, okay? It's going to be helpful later on to kind of fill in that whole time frame. Remember, we talked about chronological order, but there's also time restrictions on how long a restraint can take place. So that information becomes very vital. So length of restraint, that's the next one. Okay, we're going to need to know that. And if it goes beyond a certain amount, we're going to want to be asking questions as to why. Why did it go beyond what was allowable? We're going to want to know who was involved in that restraint. Okay, it's going to be very important to know, not just you who might be writing the report. You will have done it most likely with someone else. We're going to want to know who those folks are. The type of restraint. And again, we're not going to get into the types of restraint right now. You will learn those when you do your physical intervention training. Not all of you will go through that. That's another reason why we wouldn't cover all of that right now. And if there were any injuries by the individual or a team member. Now, if you were to get hurt or a team member was to get hurt in this process, you are going to do a different type of incident report. It's the one incident report that you really wouldn't do in the award system. You're going to write up a paper report if you were to get hurt. If it's more than one restraint, we're going to include the time and length, team member names, and type of each. So for instance, let's say Robin was a young person in program and she was restrained 3 different times on a particular day. God forbid that ever happened, but let's just say that that were to happen. Excuse me, one was in the morning, one was in the afternoon, and one was in the evening. We're going to write that up as 3 incident reports. We wouldn't lump them all together under one report. All right. All right, so we have a couple odds and ends and things that kind of fit in here that we want to talk quickly about is corporate compliance concerns. Corporate compliance, and again, you're going to learn more about that in some of the trainings that are going to follow that you will watch and view on your own. But corporate compliance kind of looks at, it's like a big auditing, self-auditing part of our agency, and it's done by QA, which is quality assurance and corporate compliance. And if you were to ever see anything that you felt was a corporate compliant issue, you're going to go ahead and you can make an anonymous report by calling the corporate compliance hotline. And there's the number on there. And we're also posting up the agency's kind of phone list that will have that information there as well. Oh, and I forgot to mention, sorry, Jenny Wiegert, she's the director of our corporate compliance. And so you can reach her directly or call that number. All right. Reporting harassment, again, another one of the trainings that you will go into further depth about, and that will give you some more information about when do I write something up about that, right? The complaint form is in Vanderheyden's J Drive. And the J Drive is something that you can talk to your supervisor more about how to access. I won't get into all that now, but those drives are one that allow anybody in the agency to be able to look into those folders. And then one of those is our operation policy manual. And within that has a bunch of different forms that we all use. So within that is the NewYork.gov combating sexual harassment workplace policy, and with it, the form that follows that. That'd be another time if you were suspected you were being harassed or you do witness harassment on a team member, whether that be regular harassment or perhaps it was sexualized in nature. Again, you would go ahead and fill out that report and you'd reach out to HR directly to report that. And there are certain things that will follow, again, that you would learn about from watching the training. So reporting abuse, there's a thing called Jonathan's Law, and I won't kind of go into the whole history of Jonathan's Law, but one of the things you need to be aware is that Jonathan's Law was created at the persistence and thankfully the very persistent parent of a young person who died in a program similar to the ones that we're working in now. And so they ultimately created a law that mandates telephone notification to the parent or guardian of an individual when an incident occurs involving that individual to happen within 24 hours. And upon written request, a written incident report must be provided to the parent or guardian. It also ensures that parents, guardians have access to records concerning alleged abuse or investigations of abuse when it concerns their children. Upon written request, records must be released within 21 days of the conclusion of an investigation. All those things were created to address a problem that occurred once upon a time within places that do the kind of work we do, that really limited parents' ability to find out certain information about their loved one in programs. So Jonathan's Law is a good one, and you know, it's important that you're aware of that. All right, so occupational exposure. Sometimes in the line of work that we're in, we might come in contact with a variety of different fluids. So anytime you come in contact with blood or bodily fluids while working, you're going to tell your supervisor immediately, and you're going to complete that employee incident report that we talked about, right? If you don't know where to get the employee incident report, go to HR. They're going to have that for you. Okay. And spill kits, those are something we refer to. They're in every department, every program, they're in the vehicles, and they are really the everything that you need to deal with a spill of some sort, right? And it's going to be located in different places, like I said, and in that spill kit, these are the types of things that you're going to find, right? 5 pairs of gloves, absorbent paper towels. I don't need to read all of them to you. You can see them there. But if you were to ever use anything inside of a spill kit, you would want to make sure that you reach out to your supervisor or the nursing department. They're going to make sure that you get everything that you need to fill that spill kit up. Shouldn't just take it, break the seal on it, use it, and then put it back, because the next person behind you may go to open it, and it should always have the same exact things in it. That's why they're sealed, taped shut after they're filled. Once you break that seal, remember it's your responsibility and obligation to make sure that you get that filled back up. All right, I think that about does it. So that is one of your very first trainings. It's now out of the way. You've completed it, so congratulations. And now you are going to go on, and we think that the instructions are very, very clear. But Robin and I, because this is new and you're going to be some of the first people going through this, we want to hear your feedback about what you liked, about what you didn't like. That's kind of our mantra in training anyways. We always look at training. It's not our training, it's your training. And we want to always make sure that it is living up to what your needs are to make sure that you are best equipped to do the jobs in front of you. So by all means, you can reach Robin or I via our email addresses. I'm going to be at ghinman, G with the as in goodness, ghinman at vanderheyden.org, and Robin is r.doptis at vanderheyden.org. Again, you type that in, it'll pop up on your email. Once you become accustomed to that, feel free to reach out. My extension is 518-283-6500, extension 749. And Robin's is
283-6500, extension 292.
all right. So we think that you have everything that is necessary to set you on your way. We wish you all the luck in the world. We're so happy to have you on board. We think that you're going to have a good experience. We hope that you came here because your interest in helping others is great. And we're here to be your resources if ever you need. And we also look forward to seeing you in person. So with that, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.